Hey, everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining me on Dangerous Ideas. I'm Leecamp, one of the most. Is my mic not wrong? Mic's not plugged in the thing with the thing. Give me a second. Jesus. Okay, let's see if we can get that working. I'm Leecamp, the most censored comedian in America, and the attacks and censorship have continued. Now the Mediaites is going after me, as well as the organization that created this chart that Mediaite is writing about. They're going after. I didn't even know Mediaite was still a thing. I didn't know that still existed to begin with. It was big in, like, I don't know, 2010 or 2012 or something. But apparently it does still exist. And they want to tell you that I am just so wrong and unreliable. Anyway, I'm going to get into this insane attack on me and on others, but it's just a beautiful, it's like it really does show. It's like a blossoming flower of stupidity about our media, of how people review, how people view our insane media as somehow, oh, the center is NPR. And anyway, I'll get into all that. That's coming up in a second. I'm also going to talk about a big event coming up that I'll be speaking live at, as well as Cornell West and Code Pink and so many other awesome people in Washington, D.C. I'm going to talk about U.S. officials bragging that the proxy war in Ukraine has been wonderful for the United States, while hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians die and have their lives destroyed. I'm going to get into so many big stories that are happening right now. And you know, I'm sorry I was gone yesterday. I had to do it for Labor Day, man. I had to do it. I had to respect my labor. I actually went on strike against myself to demand Labor Day off. And at first I was like, no, fuck you. You work, rain or shine, doesn't matter. And then I said to myself, is that really how you want to treat your workers? And then I said to myself, okay, I guess you're right. So sorry I wasn't here yesterday. But thank you all for being here. It really is an honor to have you join me as I continue to get attacked by just a variety of places. And just to be clear here, many of you know they've done attack pieces on me several years ago in New York Times, Cover the Arts section, NPR Weekend Edition, one of NPR's better known shows. All of these large-scale attacks. Washington Post did a semi-attack on me way back. And yet I have had zero. There's never been a positive article written about me in any of these outlets. The closest I've had to a positive article about me is like in a major mainstream article. It's like Rolling Stone in a very large expose about how Rumble is the worst thing that's ever existed. They had like 2 sentences or something, or maybe 3 or something about me, saying I'm left wing and I'm on Rumble and you know, I do left wing stuff. So that's the closest you'll get to any kind of positive coverage, because, you know, I am just so dangerous. That's why I named the show Dangerous Ideas, and my recent book, Dangerous Ideas. Speaking of that, let's get the brand up there in the screen. Is because the idea that it's dangerous to be pro-peace, to be against war, to be, you know, to think that there should be less inequality, like actually justice and equality. And let's get, you know what, while we're at it, let's get rid of systemic racism and all these. And it's just so bewildering that it's just like one attack after another. Like I'm like, hey, baby, everybody could have housing. And then whenever there's any discussion of me in the mainstream media, it's that guy needs to fucking die. Fucking lying piece of shit. And I'm like, maybe we could not kill other people so much. And then they're like, you fucking terror, you horror show. You're a terrorist is what you are. And I'm like, what if everyone had food? Because food is good for folks because they're humans too. And they're like, oh, fucking Jesus, you God die, piece of shit. I'm like, I feel like that's a overreaction for me saying folks should have food. Anyway, that's what it feels like sometimes. But I am definitely part of this chart, part of this analysis I am proud of. All right, so let's get going here. Please click thumbs up, please click subscribe and follow and stuff. We're closing in on 60,000 followers on Rumble, which are their version of subscribers. It's free to do that, so please do that. And it definitely helps all of my broadcasts and everything. But okay, so here it is from Mediaite. And they didn't create this chart, but interestingly, they curated this chart, which is going to be part of what I get to here. So Mediaite puts out this article about cable news shows and networks ranked for bias and accuracy. And it has a bunch on here. And the chart's a little confusing. So let me talk about it for a second. Okay, now the left-right makes sense, right? That's common sense. If you're farther on the left on this chart, then that means you're more left-wing. If you're farther on the right, then that means you're more right-wing. So at the far right, almost off the chart, they have Alex Jones over there. And then on the left side, they have me, and the only ones that are beyond a certain point on the left side are me, the Young Turks, and Revolutionary Blackout Network. Now, first of all, I love Revolutionary Blackout Network. I'm friends with those guys. I go on their show. They come on my show. You've probably seen them on here. But I don't know why they're more left-wing than me. I am offended. That what have they outwinged me on? Come on, RBN. You guys need to come back on my show and explain how you are farther left than me. But beyond just that, they put me at essentially the same level, although they put them slightly actually more to the left, as the Young Turks. The fucking Young Turks? The Young Turks have ultimately endorsed the Democrat in most of these elections, maybe all of them. I don't keep up with every day-to-day of the Young Turks, so I don't know, but they, at the end of the day, yeah, they may have supported Bernie for a while in a way. They didn't, I don't know if they ever said they supported Bernie. They may give positive coverage to Bernie for a while. But then at the end, it's fucking Hillary, right? Fucking Hillary, Biden. How are they more left wing than me? They're not even in the same realm as me, as far as I'm concerned. Fucking bullshit. But beyond just that, beyond the fact that at the end of the day, they always endorse the Democrats, more importantly, they have been doing some loony right-wing stuff recently, such as saying that more homeless people need to be arrested, like supporting quote-unquote anti-camping laws, which are just laws designed to stop, like to beat homeless people, get them arrested, get them kicked out of an area while they're just trying to survive those. And actually, I'm talking about this on my upcoming comedy special. That's not camping. It's fucking surviving. How is that camping? Yet here they are doing, and let's be clear here. And I don't necessarily begrudge media people for making some level of money, but they're rich as shit. Like Jank and Anna and them are rich as flying fuck. These are multi-millionaires doing segments on how homeless people need to be accosted and attacked more by police. Like the fuck? How is that left wing? Please, anyone, explain to me how that's left wing. They also, and again, I don't know. Thank God my life is not such that I sit home watching the Young Turks all day. I don't watch them, but every once in a while something comes to my attention. And I believe people have told me that they also largely acted like Russiagate was real. Like it was a real thing. And anyone, again, with a functioning brain cell knew very early on that Russiagate was a bullshit psyop to give people a reason that Hillary lost. And it has all collapsed. Every last bit has collapsed. Every bit. I'm gonna probably talk a little more about that in a moment. But uh and so assuming I haven't heard wrong and they did act like Russiagate was a thing, that's not left wing. That's just straight up center right ignorance. I mean, it's Democrat, but again, the Democrats are not left wing. So that's another thing that's confusing about this chart. It makes you think that so much of our media is even moderately left wing. And by the way, there's maybe one other, but essentially on this entire Mediaite chart, I am the only one without a TV show that isn't like a group of people. Maybe there's one other, but this is dozens of news organizations and it's almost entirely corporate media. And then there's some that are not corporate media, like Young Turks or Revolution Blackout Network, but those are all groups of people. And then me. It's just me. It's like whoever wrote this article was like, you know what? I need to slam leecamp. I'm gonna have almost exclusively corporate news on here and then just take a hit at leecamp for some reason. But okay, so that's the left-right thing, which I hope that without a doubt is obviously bullshit. It's not. First of all, I should be farther left, which this is upsetting. I'm not that left, but just beyond that, it acts like many of our corporate news channels, network shows are center or are slightly right or slightly left. No, they're all right wing. If you are endorsing either the Democrats or the Republicans most of the time, then you are supporting the wars of American empire, which is right fucking wing, okay? To support the endless death and destruction of millions around the world. 6 million people have died in the global war on terror. To support all of that is not left wing. It's not for equality. It's not for justice. It's not for ending war. It's none of those things. So everything on this chart, with the exception of me and Revolutionary Blackout Network, is not left wing at all. At all. So it really, if this chart were even slightly accurate, every one of these things would just be crowded on the right side of the chart. And then you'd have me and RBN on the other side. Now, I'm about to get to the fact that there are a million other independent shows that are left wing. There's amazing stuff. That's, people I'm friends with that do shows. There's people like Richard Wolff. There's By Any Means Necessary. There's Popular Resistance, Clearing the Fog. Like there's all these great things out there. So that's also part of why this chart is utter bullshit, is because they wanted to pretend that there's a couple of left-wing loonies off to the side here, but in general, most people are not doing that kind of crazy shit. When in fact, there are plenty of people that are doing real anti-war work. Like the real anti-war activists, the real climate activists, the real environmental activists, the real fighting against, fighting for prison abolition and police abolition and these, great efforts. And Mediaite, along with the company that made the chart, which I'll get to in a minute, is trying to act like none of that exists. So this is serving multiple purposes. It's maligning me as biased and false. So let's get to that part actually because I'm getting stuck on one area of this. But oh yeah, and just to go back to what exactly is wrong with being like left wing, there's a meme going around right now. It looks like it might be pretty old, but I don't care. It's a little chart and it says, "Is your child a far left extremist? Look for these warning signs. Expresses sympathy for poor and working people. Expresses concern over the treatment of marginalized groups. Expresses concerns with fascism and the current political climate. Accepting of all sexualities, religions, genders, races, etc. Wishes for a world where all people are treated equally. Takes an interest in history and philosophy." talks about solving various injustices in societies. Those are the horrible things you need to look for. You might be left wing, and that's a real fucking problem. Okay, if you care about any of those things or worry about those people, and luckily we have charts like this to tell us to avoid shows like mine, to tell us to avoid dangerous ideas like mine. Okay, but let's get to this. Let's get to the other factor of the chart. So that's the left-right axis. Someone's asking if this is an article. Yes, it's an article on Mediaite written about this chart that I'm showing you. To quote a little bit from that article, it says, while nothing new to the news industry, understanding which news sources are reliable and in which direction they lean has become an increasingly daunting task. In a time of bad actors, misinformation, and political class blurring the lines between statesmen and media figures, the question of who to trust has never been more important. So they've created this chart so you can know who's biased. And that's the other axis. So you got the left-right axis. Then you have at the bottom, if you're towards the bottom of this chart, which the bottom most on the left side is me, the bottom most on the right side is Alex Jones. If you are on the bottom side of this chart, you are less reliable down to basically not reliable at all. They have put me barely in the contains misleading info area, but solidly in the incomplete story, unfair persuasion, and propaganda area, as well as Revolutionary Blackout Network. Okay, now you want to hear all the ones that apparently are totally truthful and not reliable. And reliable. Totally truthful and reliable. Everything on CNN, everything on MSNBC, everything on Fox News, with the exception of Jesse Waters, everything on NPR, CBS, NBC, ABC, all of that garbage, according to this chart, is solidly in the analysis. Let's see. Is in the basically reliable area, reliable to more reliable. Some are in the more reliable area, some are in the reliable area. Now, let me just begin by asking, if you're going to call me unreliable, what exactly have I been wrong on? What the fuck am I getting wrong? Please tell me. Please, because I can go down a list of what I've been right on that the mainstream media has been gloriously wrong on, such as WMD in Iraq, the Cuban acoustic ray gun bullshit, Syrian chemical weapons, where 4 whistleblowers at the OPCW have now come forward to say that the Assad did not use chemical weapons because why would he use the one thing that guarantees American invasion? So I was right on that. Mainstream media gloriously wrong. How about U.S. crimes against humanity, such as just straight up shooting innocent civilians, as we ultimately saw with the WikiLeaks videos that came out, the collateral death videos that was leaked by Chelsea Manning and revealed by WikiLeaks. Those type of things are things that I've been saying for a long time, that innocent people are gunned down and killed and bombed in our wars. And the mainstream media acts like that doesn't exist. But then you have WikiLeaks revealing it all to us. How about the war in Afghanistan being meaningless and aimless and fucking doing nothing for no one except for the U.S. empire to just have another footprint around the world? And ultimately, all of that, even though I said it throughout the war in Afghanistan, 20 fucking years, maybe I only said it for 19, but the Washington Post ultimately admitted that. The Washington Post ultimately did a large spread called the Afghanistan Papers, where they revealed that we were lied to by our government about Afghanistan throughout the years, that there was no success in Afghanistan, that nothing was going right in Afghanistan, that we weren't close to fixing Afghanistan, that we weren't helping Afghani people. Like, all of that came out and was even published in the Washington Post after whatever it was, 19 years of the Washington Post printing propaganda bullshit. that you can go read it right now. Go read the Afghanistan papers in the Washington Post. You can see the truth. So it turns out I was right about that for roughly 20 years, while the mainstream media was wrong about that for roughly 20 years. How many apologies do you get from them, huh? How about the attack on Libya by NATO and France and the United States? We said it was going to help the Libyan people. We said we were there to help. How much has it helped the Libyan people? How well are they doing? Has it just been great for them? Or was I fucking right all along? How about Russiagate? Let's talk about Russiagate, where I am so unreliable, according to this chart, and the mainstream media is so reliable. Russiagate has fallen apart in every fucking regard. Hamilton 68, the Russian bot armies, the fact that it was a leak out of the DNC, not a hack. The fact that the Steele dossier was utter bullshit. The fact that ads on Facebook and the Internet Research Agency, none of it did anything. None of it changed the election. All of that I covered from day one, and I've been proven right on every last aspect of it. So how exactly am I unreliable or wrong most of the time? Whereas the mainstream media, they continue. Many of them continue to act like it's a thing. It doesn't matter how fake it is. They'll keep talking about it. How about the Russian bounties story? Russia's paying Taliban bounties to shoot Americans because the Taliban really needed an extra reason to shoot American soldiers when they're at war with American soldiers in Afghanistan. Turns out I was right. Mainstream media was utterly wrong. How about the Chinese secret police stations that are across the United States and the UK? And I just read to you a couple of weeks ago that after extensive investigation, no one seems to actually be able to point to any Chinese secret police stations across the United States and the UK. So all of this collapses. Sorry, reading Secular Progressive is thank you for the donation. I was on the March 2022 chart, and I was to the right of the Young Turks and MSNBC. I was there. You're saying they've made me more. They've since made me apparently more left wing. Yet I was also listed as least reliable back then as well. So yeah, apparently getting everything right makes you unreliable. How about the fucking climate crisis that I've been right about for fucking 20 years? And the mainstream media, I know that if you watch Fox News or something, they'll act like the mainstream media has been going on and on about climate crisis forever. They fucking haven't. If you actually look at the numbers, go look at Fairness and Accuracy Reporting. They've gone through the numbers of how often our mainstream media actually covers climate crisis. I'm not talking about one CNN article here and one there. I'm talking about repeatedly covering it. It's a tiny, tiny amount. In fact, 2 years ago, Meet the Press mentioned climate crisis or climate change or global warming twice in the entire year. And one of them was Bernie Sanders mentioning it as he was speaking as a guest. So that shouldn't even really count. So Meet the Press is one of the most watched NBC shows, and yet never talking about climate crisis until there's been some uptick the past couple of years because we're in a fucking climate crisis. So yet again, I've been right all along, and they're starting to come around to my position on that as well a little bit. How about the war on drugs, which I've been proven right is an attack on our own people, is destroying our own people's lives, our own citizens' lives, left and right. Much of that has changed, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, weed wasn't legal anywhere. I was saying it should be. Oh, here we are. Oh, with most of it becoming, legal. Even HHS, I just covered it on the last show, said that weed should be made a Schedule 3 drug as opposed to a Schedule 1 drug, the least illegal level. That's even HHS, federal government agency. So I was right about the war on drugs as well. And then you get into smaller things that I've been right about all along as well, like aspartame, equal sweetener. Now even the WHO says that it can cause seizures and other issues, including cancer. I did reports on that way back. How about glyphosate and Monsanto? Glyphosate now considered cancer causing by all the major health organizations. And Monsanto their brand is now mud. And I talked about that for fucking 15 years. And where was the mainstream media? Nowhere to be seen, because they need to do everything that licks the shoes of corporate America. Well, corporate America is the cause of a great deal of the harm that is done to us, the harm that's done to our world. So if you can't criticize corporate America, which, like I said, that chart that they're showing there's mainly corporate media, almost entirely. If you can't criticize corporate America, essentially, then you can't criticize fucking 70% of the problem. How about the trillions of dollars in the CARES Act that was dumped onto Wall Street and went to just the rich, just dumped into the pockets of the rich? I was talking about that from essentially the moment the CARES Act existed. And now you have some in the mainstream media going, oh, a lot of money was given to Wall Street during the pandemic. Oh, really? You just noticed? How about the primaries being rigged against Bernie Sanders? As I was doing that, as I was covering that and covering how they were being rigged, I was called all kinds of names. I was told I'm making it up. I'm lying. New York Times actually did a thing. They didn't actually say my name, but they made fun of, oh my God, what's his fucking name? Okay. Now I'm a moron. Jesus Christ, Tim, whatever. I have blanked. Anyway, famous actor, but he put up the chart of he used to be married to Susan Sarandon. Someone in the chat, give me his goddamn name. Anyway, he retweeted my tweet about how the exit polls were so wrong. Tim Robbins, thank you, Iowa Blackbird. Tim Robbins put up the exit polls, my tweet about the exit polls being completely wrong with Bernie Sanders and about how it was rigged against him. New York Times then did a whole attack article against Tim Robbins without mentioning me, but it was my content that he had reposted. And what do you know? In New York City, you have the New York Board of Elections admitting in court that they purged 160,000 likely Bernie voters. They ultimately had to pay a large fine. So that's an admission that they were rigging it against Bernie Sanders. They dumped 160,000 Bernie heavy area, like an area that was going to go heavily for Bernie. They dumped them so that they couldn't vote. And that was proven in court. Another one that was proven in court, DNC lawyers actually said in court in Florida that there could be no lawsuit against the DNC for rigging the primaries because the DNC has the right to rig the primaries. They said the DNC has no obligation to have a fair primary system. Why would you say that unless the primaries were rigged? So I was proven right on that as well. How about Israel being an apartheid state? In order to not get suppressed, I should have said apartheid state. How about Israel being an apartheid state? I've been saying that for years, but we only now have some. The mainstream media still won't say it, but we have, for the most part. But we have actually, and those who do are then fired from the mainstream media. But we do have large human rights, the best known human rights organizations in the world who are not fucking far left wing. They largely do the bidding of the United States. But even groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, they are now calling it an apartheid state. So proven right yet again. So I really just ask, what is it that I'm so unreliable on? Like, if you're going to throw me in a chart and call me unreliable and call Rachel Maddow, who's been everything I just listed, she's been wrong about, you're going to call her the most reliable, or who do they have? Who do they have as the most reliable here? Let's see. NBC News, NBC Nightly News, CNN, Situation Room. Like, literally the shows that are meant to do the manufacturing of consent for the wars of the U.S. empire, they are the pinnacle of centrist, reliable news sources on this chart. What does that tell you? Yet But if you're going to throw me on a chart and call me unreliable, please point to everything I've gotten wrong. Because it looks to me like I seem to be getting a lot right, and you motherfuckers won't even admit when you get all this stuff wrong. Okay, so who makes this chart is this Colorado startup, but that's bullshit. You know, it really depends on who they're funded by. I don't know who they're funded by, but you know, you can have a startup called Fuckity Fuck, and then it's funded by George Soros or the Koch brothers or whatever, and or Elon Musk or fucking Jeff Bezos, and then you go, well, it wasn't anyone we've ever heard of. It's a Colorado startup called Fuckity Fuck that said a thing. You could have a Colorado startup called Most Reliable Thing Ever Reliable, Really Reliable Thing, and it's funded by, you know, Bill Gates or funded by fucking Alex Jones. It doesn't matter. I mean, he doesn't have much money now, but funded by, you know, Fox News or some shit. And everybody's pointing to it going, well, the new startup, Reliable, McReliable, Very Reliable, says it's reliable. And so you don't know where it's really coming from. But anyway, Colorado startup called Ad Fontes, meaning the sources in Latin, which recently raised $4 million in a round of financing. Oh, I wonder where that money came from. Believes it can help answer the question on the media bias chart. The chart rates publications. And so here's the thing is not only they're talking about media bias, and not only is the chart just biased to begin with, but Mediaite is only showing you some of the people on the chart. They had to make a choice, be selective on who they would put on this chart. They chose to put me and Revolution Blackout as the crazy left-wingers who are unreliable on the chart. And they chose to put Alex Jones as the far right unreliable. And they chose to put these other ones as the most reliable. But in fact, all of the other independent news shows that you're thinking about right now, you know, like Russell Brand or Glenn Greenwald or Jimmy Dore or any of these people, they're all part of this chart. It's just Mediaite chose not to show them on there. They chose to show a very specific group of people. So how is that not bias? Mediaite is being biased in their reporting on this chart that's supposed to reveal bias. Like, how fucked is that? But on top of that, you know, and I don't know that you actually need me to say this part, but all these news organizations that are so-called unbiased or they're not opinion. Like the lower you get on this chart means you're doing more opinion. It says the middle of this chart says mix of fact and analysis rather than just fact reporting. So basically, the lower you get on this chart, you're giving an opinion. But here's what a lot of people don't seem to understand is whenever you watch NBC Nightly News, let's say, and they say the U.S. government says that they dropped a bomb and it didn't hit any civilians. Or the U.S. government says, let's use a real example. The U.S. government says they didn't blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's a choice, right? That's a choice to report what the U.S. government's saying, to not report what others are saying, right? They didn't report what Seymour Hersh was saying until they fucking had no choice because everyone was talking about it. So that's a bias. That's an opinion. It's an opinion that the U.S. government is right and other sources aren't right, and therefore we're going to report the U.S. government says and not report what the other says. That's a bias. Like the idea that NBC News or New York Times or whatever is not opinionated, is not writing opinion or analysis, is utter horseshit. Throughout is another real example. Throughout the Holocaust, the New York Times did, despite the fact that, and I'm talking about the time that the U.S. government, U.S. agencies, U.S. media, in that time when they all knew that the Holocaust was going on, this is during World War II, they found out it was going on. In that time, the New York Times had only 6 articles about the Holocaust. We're talking years, right? That the number of years that the Holocaust went on and was known to be going on by the U.S. government and others was years. The New York Times ran 6 articles, but here's something else. Of those 6 articles, very few of them, I think maybe one of them, had any mention of Jews, of Jewish people being exterminated in the Holocaust. Now, are you going to call that not an opinion, not a bias? That was a choice by the New York Times and the New York Times leadership to A, not report on the Holocaust, and B, when they did, not mention that it was a very large number of Jews, millions being executed. That's a choice. That's an opinion. But here we are with charts like these saying, no, New York Times doesn't have an opinion. CNN Situation Room doesn't have an opinion. They're just reporting facts. Where are those facts coming from? B, what are they choosing to report? C, what are they really not reporting on? Such as the blowing up of Nord Stream pipeline. It's amazing how much bullshit this is. And really what I'm most upset about is I'm not the farthest left-wing one on that chart. I don't know why. Really. RBN, you gotta come on here and explain to me how exactly you're more left-wing than me, because it's really upsetting. Okay, I've done enough. I've been screaming at these fucking idiots for long enough. But yes, there you have it, folks. Getting attacked again. It's amazing how much I'm suppressed, how censored I am. Someone else was pointing out, periodically people point this out to me, that when I send emails to my email list, by the way, if you want to join the email list of one of the most censored comedians in the country, please, you can join at leecamp.com. That's my main website, and you can join up there for free. But when I send out those emails, my newsletters and stuff, a lot of the times it says at the top in a yellow bar appears at the top of the email that's like this big, that says, this appears to be spam. This appears to be phishing. You're in danger. And that's put on there by like Google. And that's yet another way that I'm suppressed and censored. They're trying to make sure people don't read my emails. And so my email read rate has plummeted because, even people that like my stuff, they're like, I don't want to do the dangerous thing. It could be a trick. It's a trap. Basically, every time I send an email, there's the gif of the guy, he's like an octopus head dude from Star Wars, who's sitting there going, it's a trap. That's at the top of every one of my emails that I send. Fighting the attacks is just, but so here I am, one of the most suppressed. Fucking no one sees my Facebook posts, no one sees my YouTube posts, like one of the most suppressed out there. And yet that's not enough. Mediaite and the others, they're like, let's just keep going at him, because we really got to stop this comedian. He's creating too much change. He's waking people up. It's a real problem. Yes, thank you, Robert. General Akbar. That's who it is. It's a trap. Well, that's what they put that at the top of every one of my emails. Okay, I want to do 2 quick announcements, but this one's pretty cool. Big event in Washington, D.C., put together by Code Pink. It will involve speakers such as Dr. Cornel West, Medea Benjamin, Lee Camp, I've heard of him, Eugene Perrier, who's also great. You know him from Breakthrough News, and many others. I don't have the full list. Otherwise, I would give a shout out to some of the others. But this is co-sponsored by Peace in the Ukraine Coalition, Code Pink, Busboys and Poets, Answer Coalition, Massachusetts Peace Act, World Beyond War, Roots Action, so many great organizations all coming together. It's in Washington, D.C., Tuesday, October 3rd, and you can attend online if you can't make it to D.C., and it is at codepink.org is where you can sign up to say you're attending in person or online. If you have questions about it, I'm not really the person to come to, because I'm not setting it up, but I will be speaking there. And it is the urgency of pursuing peace in Ukraine. And all of these people you see speaking there, me, Cornell, Eugene, Medea, we're all the targets of a lot of attacks right now, because the DNC, Democrats, are scared to death of Cornel West. that he is actually way more popular. If it weren't for the fact that like if it were just Joe Biden versus Cornel West on the, and people weren't thinking about parties and all that bullshit, he would be way more popular than Joe Biden. But they're doing all these attacks against us. They went after Code Pink recently. I covered that. New York Times went after Code Pink. I covered that on this show last week or the week before. And just amazing, the attacks that are going on against all of us for wanting peace in Ukraine, for daring to say that we should end this fucking war, and the destruction that we're causing is horrific. So check that out. October 3rd, if you guys get a chance. Okay, other announcement real quick. Thank you so much to those of you who attended my first ever hour-long Zoom comedy show. I have heard from several people saying that the laughter, we had hoped to leave a bunch of mics unmuted so that people could hear the laughter. By the way, it was sold out. There were like, 300 or so people there. And we didn't leave that many open. I think we left 10 or 15 mics unmuted, but apparently that was still too much. It was too loud, and people found it distracting through the show. And I apologize for that. We're playing with these things. So we're going to do the next one. I'm performing that same hour one more time, called Not Enough Friends to Bury a Body. And I'm doing it one more time. It's at a time that's better for Europeans and you people, those in the UK. And that is, September 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I am offering, for those of you who attended the first one and were distracted or annoyed by the laughter, and it made it hard to hear me, and you would like free tickets to the next performance, I'm giving those out to those who already attended the first one, if it was a problem for you. But even if you don't qualify there, tickets are only $5. So hopefully you'll check it out. The next one, we're not unmuting mics. So there will not be the annoyance of the laughter. But hopefully you'll still thoroughly enjoy the show. I also am doing a new show called in October. The next hour will be called Fear of Death and Other Small Matters. And that's on October 14th and 18th. Tickets are only $5. And it's at leecamp.simpletix.com, but it's also at the top of my Twitter page, twitter.com/leecamp. So you can join for that hour. And by the way, I think that the cat's out of the bag. We tried to have the special guest be John F. O'Donnell due to tech difficulties. That didn't work. John F. O'Donnell will be performing on the next one, though. So if you want to see that also, please join me for these live comedy hours. And unlike my live streams here, it's pure comedy. It's an hour of pure comedy. I think you guys really, really love it. So the link is at the top of my Twitter feed. All right, moving on. The rest of this live stream, which I'm about to get into, I'm about to get into some stuff on inequality. Also have U.S. officials have been bragging about how much the Ukraine war has served us, how great it's been. So I'm going to be covering all of that at on rumble.com/leecamp and my locals page, and the rest of the feeds will stop. But that's rumble.com/leecamp. Free to watch there. Rumble.com/leecamp. I'll go ahead and put the link in the comment thread to make it easy for the lazy people. But I support laziness. I'm a big fan of laziness. In fact, if I had things my way, I would do like Mitch McConnell and just shut it down for like 30 seconds and just stare into the distance, like roughly every 5 minutes. Just shut it down, because I'm lazy enough that it's, it looks like a good time. All right. Join me over on Rumble. See you there. If you're on Rumble, nothing changes. Just give me, I'll say 12 seconds. No, make